Hello, hello, hello! Emery's Crime here, your fellow crime, thriller and mystery book lover. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I cannot believe that it's that time of the month already. It's my February reading wrap up. I have 10 books to go through with you today, one of which was a DNF. I'm going to start with my least favourite and work my way and end on a high with my favourite book, but the real question is, did any of them score 5 stars out of 5? My least favourite book and also my DNF was Hello Beautiful by Ann Napolitano. This is obviously completely off brand for me, but I'm reading it as part of a vlog which I'm doing, which I'm going to post either the end of March or early April, I think. I got to about the 15% mark and decided to DNF. It wasn't a bad book per se, it just wasn't my cup of tea. I could have powered through, and if I did so, I probably would have ended up giving it 3 stars out of 5. However, I don't have as much time to read as I used to, and that's not a complaint whatsoever because I love spending time with my little boy. However, what it does mean is when it comes to books which I'm not enjoying, I'm going to be much more stricter when it comes to DNFing, especially when it's a book which is not really the kind of genre I would typically enjoy. Then my least favourite book which I read from start to finish is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a horror book and I wouldn't necessarily have picked it up, but Michaela picked it for me as part of a TBR takeover. I'm going to be posting that video next week. Main character Ro is an English scholar and she goes to a farmer's market and she meets a girl called Ash and she becomes infatuated with her. Prior to this, she considers herself to be straight, but she just can't help to feel these really strong romantic attractions towards Ash. So then she keeps coming up with excuses to go to the farmer's market, to meet Ash and develop a relationship with her. The premise of the book actually gave me Cackle vibes by Rachel Harrison, and I love that book and I gave it 5 stars. But Cackle is a story of friendship and Bloom is a story of romance. And both obviously have a horror side to them. I didn't actually get horror vibes from Bloom until the final 20% of the book, and I found the first 80% kind of slow and a bit boring. And even though I really enjoyed the final 20% of the book, I thought it was really obvious where the book was going. I don't know if that's the point or if you're supposed to be shocked. I didn't think it was a bad book. It just wasn't really my cup of tea. So I ended up giving it 3 stars out of 5. Next is Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas. Obviously this is completely off brand for me, so I won't go into this in too much detail, but it's book 3 in the Throne of Glass series. I didn't love it as much as books 1 and 2. I gave both of those 4 stars. However, I really enjoyed the ending and I'm definitely still going to continue on with the series, and I gave it 3.25 stars out of 5. Next we have 7 Reasons to Murder Your Dinner Guest by KJ Whittle. A group of 7 strangers are anonymously invited to a mysterious dinner. At each place setting, there is an envelope which states the age which each one of these individuals will die. At first, they just think it's some sort of sick joke. However, when the first guest dies, they begin to realise that this is serious. I thought it was a bit slow to get going, but the more I read, the more I enjoyed it. The chapters were really long, but each chapter was broken up by different points of view, which helped break up the really long chapters. The characters were really well developed, but they were also unlikable, but I think that was the point of the story, to not really like them. I guessed who did it, but the motivation surprised me. Overall, I enjoyed this book. It didn't blow me away, but I did enjoy it, and I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5. Then we have A Murder in 8 Cocktails by Kelly Mullen. I met this author at the Geeks and Crime Festival last year, and she was so lovely. She's actually coming to one of my local independent bookshops for a book signing, and there's going to be cocktails involved, and it sounds very fun. Main character Willa is a 55-year-old content creator in the ASMR niche, and her ASMR involves cocktail making. A really fancy new bar opens and she's invited to this opening of the new bar, and she's asked to do some content for her YouTube channel. She goes to the event with her husband, but when she arrives, she sees her ex-husband Paul. During the event, the owner of the bar unalives himself. However, Willa is convinced that something suspicious is at play, so she ends up investigating it with her ex-husband Paul. As you read the book, you come across cocktail instructions, and the idea behind the book is that you make the cocktail and drink it while you're reading the book until you hit the next cocktail. I didn't partake in making the cocktails, but I thought that that was a really fun idea and something a bit different. And because of that, I think this is the kind of book which would be great to take away for a long weekend with some friends. You know, you make the cocktails together while you're reading the book. I really like the main character Willa. I liked how the characters in the book, particularly Willa's husband and her ex-husband, develop as the story goes. It was an easy read. I enjoyed it. Again, it didn't blow my socks off, but I enjoyed it a bit more than the previous book, so I ended up giving it 3.75 stars out of 5. Next is A Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I'm wanting to work my way through her backlist. I'm about halfway through so far. I think she's got about 10 books in total. There's sort of 2 main reasons why I wanted to read this. First of all, I've read the sequel, The Woman in Suite 11, so it didn't make sense that I hadn't read the first book first. And second of all, I wanted to watch the Netflix movie, but I'm the kind of person that likes to read the book first before watching the screen adaptation. In the story, we follow main character Lo. She is a journalist and she gets invited to spend a few days on a really ultra glamorous yacht to cover it for a piece. On the first night, in the room next door in cabin 10, she hears a kerfuffle. She then sees a body fall into the water. Obviously, she raises the alarm, however, all the staff and all the passengers are accounted for. So everybody just thinks she's losing it. I really enjoyed it and I thought the premise was really interesting. It is the epitome of a heart-pounding, very fast-paced read. I really enjoyed it. However, I think I would have enjoyed it more if I had read it before The Woman in Suite 11, but there's nothing I can do about that, and I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Next we have See How They Fall by Rachel Parris. This came all the way from New Zealand and I dropped everything to read it immediately because I love the premise of this. A really, really wealthy family get together for a weekend. However, one family member dies and another family member ends up in hospital seriously sick, and the cause is arsenic poisoning. When I initially went into this book, I thought it was going to be a classic rich people behaving badly. However, it was much darker and much grittier than I anticipated. It was so fast paced, it kept me on my toes, and I did not see the twist coming whatsoever. I was shooketh. I thought that this was a fantastic debut from this author, and I cannot wait to see what she writes next. I gave it 4.25 stars out of 5. I have only got 3 books left to go. If you've made it this far into the video, then thank you ever so much. If you're not already doing so and would like to hit that subscribe button for crime, thriller and mystery book recommendations, then I would honestly appreciate it so much. My third favourite book of February was Forget You Saw Her by Noelle W. Illy. I am so sorry if I'm mispronouncing that incorrectly. I absolutely loved As for Andrea by this author, and loads of you recommended this book to me because it's the prequel following Andrea. Andrea lives with her adopted mother and father, and she goes missing, and her biological mother gets wind that her biological daughter is missing, so she comes to set out to find out what's happened to her daughter. The writing format was so similar to As for Andrea. There's elements of supernatural in the story, which I'm very hit and miss when it comes to supernatural, but for this story I thought it worked. As a new mum, also, it just kind of tugged on some of my heartstrings and I cried a few times. It just really got me. I really loved it, but not quite as much as As for Andrea, so I gave it 4.25 stars out of 5. My second favourite book of February was One of Us is Dead by Jennifer Rose. This is the epitome of rich people behaving badly. It follows a group of women who live in Buckhead, a really wealthy area in America. And in the story we know that one of them is dead, but we don't know who is dead or who did it. I couldn't put this down. It was such an easy popcorn thriller to fly through. The chapters were mega short and the writing was so addictive. It's one that you can just fly through so easily. The writing style was also given Freida McFadden, so if you like Freida McFadden but would like to try other authors, then I would actually really recommend this. Was it a literary masterpiece? No. Did I absolutely love it and eat it up? Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. It was just the book I needed at the time of reading it, and I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. Then my favourite book of February was Guess Again by Charlie Donnelly. I am in my Charlie Donnelly era. I'm obsessed with his books at the moment. I'm working my way through his backlist. Michaela actually picked this book for me as part of the reading vlog, which I mentioned earlier, so I'll be posting more about that next week. Ethan has been a doctor for the past 10 years, but prior to that he was a detective. One day his colleague seeks him out because he has got less than a year to live and he wants Ethan's help in solving a cold case before he dies. And the reason that he asks for Ethan's help is that when Ethan was a detective, he had a 100% success rate when it came to solving crimes. This was phenomenal. This is definitely one of my favourite Charlie Donnelly books which I've read so far. The writing is sophisticated, yet it is so easy to read. The chapters are relatively short, so it's very easy to fly through the book. There are lots of characters and lots of different side plots going on, yet I was never confused when I was reading it. It was so easy to follow and understand what was going on. By the time I got to the end of the book, my jaw was on the floor. The final twist really got me. I did guess one of the major twists though, so normally I would knock a book down for that, but I got that 5-star feeling from this book. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. After reading this, I immediately wanted to pick up another one of his books. I've only got 3 more left to go, so I kind of want to savour them. A couple of books in this video you might have seen in my most recent book haul, but if you've not had a chance to check out my book haul, then I will link that here. I have also started a new series on whether I think you should buy or say goodbye to new popular thriller releases, so if you've not had a chance to check out my first video in the new series, I will link that here. Thank you ever so much for taking your time to watch this video. What was your favourite book of February? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you. Bye!